and you should be able to see my screen. So thank you everyone for joining this today's webinar on mental health during your PhD. I am Marie Montaldo and I am your host today. I am as well a project coordinator at the European University Foundation, which is a network of more than 65 universities across Europe. I am joined today by two very relevant organizations in the doctoral field, which is Eurodoc and the PhD Success Platform. And I will present and introduce my colleague today a bit later on. But as you've understood, we are gathered today to talk about mental health, which is quite a relevant topic nowadays due to well, this obvious situation in which we are in. So it has gained more and more momentum. And we can observe that general isolation due to the social restrictions, but as well, there is more and more fears towards the future, which altogether creates a climate of anxiety, obviously, and which can hinder your well-being and your efficiency. So today we will talk about different things and we'll give you tips as well for you to know how to handle those crises and those stressful moments. So I hope this will be very insightful for you. And before we start, I just wanted to remind you a few things about this webinar. It is recorded and the webinar will be shared afterwards with you so you can revisit this webinar. During the session, you can use the QA box to ask your questions to the panelists and myself. So we will have actually a Q&A session a bit afterwards in which we'll pick some of your questions. But meanwhile, my two colleagues who are here today will also check the chat box and be able to answer your question throughout the duration of the session. And finally, you can react in the chat box. This is for you to talk with your peers during the session. I'm encouraging you to do so because I think there is great value in talking to each other. And obviously, this is something we'll also touch upon today. About today, the first presentation is by Matthias from Eurodoc. He is the leader of the co-leader of one of the working group that they have on mental health, and he will talk about the roles of the different actors in safeguarding mental health and give us a European perspective to that as well, which is quite important nowadays. After that, it will be followed by a presentation by Eva from PhD Success. She created this platform to help PhD candidates during their PhDs and to provide mental health support as well. So she will talk about how to become a more confident, productive, and happy PhD researcher. We will have the Q&As after the presentation of Eva. And at the end of the webinar, I will talk about the PhD Hub tool, which is a platform for early stage researchers to match their research interests with the public and the private sector. So without further ado, I will invite Matthias to take the lead and share his presentation.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Marie. I will just click a button that makes your presentation disappear now, I think. Wait, let's find the right one for me. This, I think, should bring the right screen online. Can you confirm that you see the opening slide? Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot. So first of all, thank you, Marie, for organizing this event, for inviting us to participate, because of course, as you said, this remains a very important topic. For early stage researchers, you will notice in my presentation, I sometimes mention them as early career researchers. It's the same terminology, of course. As you mentioned today, I'll focus briefly on the shared responsibility of institutions, policymakers, but also, and more importantly, the early career researchers themselves. in safeguarding mental health. So what I have on the menu for you today is first a brief introduction to Eurodoc, then a short reflection on what a PhD in fact is, then some of the main concerns expressed by early stage researchers, in particular then mental health, some of the causal factors of mental health that we identify, of mental health issues, and then finally also how we could tackle some of these problems on each of the different levels, which mainly means that we reflect about steps to take towards more sustainable research careers. So to start, a few words about Eurodoc. Eurodoc is the European Council of Doctoral Candidates and Junior Researchers. It is a legally registered non-profit that is composed of, roughly speaking, 28 national associations. This may change from year to year, but this is the average. The organization is completely run by volunteers, so for and by early stage researchers themselves, and is funded through the membership fees paid by the national associations. Through our 28 national associations, we have the potential to reach 1 million early stage researchers. As an organization, we focus on developing policy recommendations on various topics, among which you see career development, doctoral training, mental health, open science. These are all separate working groups within the organizations, focused on delivering these policy recommendations. We work very closely together with stakeholders and other associations. You see associations of young researchers like the Young Academy of Europe, the MCA, associations of universities like the EUA, associations of funders like Science Europe, but also EU representatives, the Commission, the Parliament, and the Council of Europe. Then turning to today's topic, first of all, setting the stage a bit. I would like to start with a reflection on what a PhD is, and this is a simple question to the audience, actually. The question for you is, what is a PhD? How do you see it linked to your career development? And you can answer this question by going to the website menti.com, entering the code 961654-1, and then I'll try to switch my screens here to get your response online. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to maximize. Yeah, here it is. Voila. Some of you are already responding. That's great. I like to see that. So the question is, give one keyword. If you think about a PhD, what is it for you? What does it mean for you? I'll quickly check how many people do we have in the room. 124. So I expect at least 70 responses before we continue. At the current rate, this is good. So some of you already mentioned it's a training. It is research. It is an immersive program. For some, it's a marathon. It's indeed, once you finish a PhD, you can show that you can endure, that you have a perseverance. Some mentioned correctly, it is also work. Some experience the imposter syndrome. Thanks a lot for mentioning this, because this is one of these risk factors. I also like to see the words chance, a Godzilla. Sometimes it can indeed be a big project. An opportunity, that's also a nice word. Development, an experience, to say the least. Main works that are coming up are also related to learning, training, development, research, work, skill building, very important. A début, the start of something, the start of a career. So thanks a lot. All very relevant keywords. Patience. Patience is a virtue and something you indeed learn along the way. A thesis should be delivered at one moment. Curiosity. That's also an interesting one, because curiosity is what usually drives us in these first initial years of our academic career. Deviation. Sometimes it's difficult to stay on one single path. a performance, a proof of certain skills. So thanks a lot for these words already. 44, it's stalling, a commitment, a devotion, a journey. Uncertainty, resilience. Good. So please feel, you can keep on feeding this feed. At the moment, how it comes up mostly is research, development, knowledge, a challenge, work, training, learning. I'll switch again to my own presentation. I keep on feeding it. I'll share the word cloud on itself later on as well. Because I, of course, also had to do some homework for today, and also had to think about this question. And some of you mentioned the word that I was thinking about, because I was thinking indeed also about the word journey. In the most narrow sense, what is a PhD? It's the highest academic degree, and it allows you to become part of an academic community, and for some also to enter an academic staff position. On the other hand, it is indeed a journey. It allows you to develop yourself, not only as an excellent scientist, but more importantly, as a young professional. It is the start of your professional career. You're not a student anymore as such. You are a young professional, a young scientist. So the PhD allows you to gain a very narrow specialist knowledge in your field. And at times, the PhD asks a lot of your attention and may absorb you almost completely. However, it remains always important to put the PhD in perspective, to realize that the project on itself is only a very minor part of a wider reality. Here in the picture, what you see is on the left upper corner, the circle of knowledge. And you see, you go to school, you gain some general knowledge. As soon as you enter your bachelor and your master's degree, this knowledge becomes very narrow. And making a dent in what we know, you could see that as your PhD. That dent will consume you at some moments completely, but a dent only is a minor part of the knowledge. And with this image, I also would like to show you that the dent that you make, that project that you have, is only a minor part of a much wider reality. That is called life, and that happens around you. So in addition to developing a specialist knowledge, your PhD is a project that allows you to develop a wide set of transferable skills. These skills are useful in both the academic and non-academic setting. And as such, a PhD is aimed at preparing yourself for future leading roles in the wider society. And like most projects, on paper, a PhD looks simple. A simple plan, bring you from A to B. In reality, however, there are some obstacles on the way, challenges. And these challenges, for sure, they add some flavor to the journey. It would be boring without. And these challenges, you're perfectly able to overcome them. That's not the issue. However, at times, these challenges may affect your well-being. So now I would like to quickly have a look at well-being during the PhD. So here we have from some retrospective ratings of psychological well-being along the PhD journey, ranging from low to high for different people. They report that the PhD journey can be intense at times, especially during these challenging moments, as I showed you earlier. So sometimes will be definitely more intense than others. But how does it typically look? In the beginning, there's the initial high. Then there's the first dip. You start to realize that the project doesn't run as smooth as you want, or you came up and experienced your first challenges. Then in the middle, there is, again, a midway lift, an upper movement again, followed by a second dip. Usually the deepest dip right before the writing phase, the writing up phase. And then at the end, there is the final high. What this means, if you look at the memory development, that is that if you look back at your PhD, what you see is that you will have an overall positive feeling about it. In psychology, we could call this a peak-end effect. You remember the midway high and the final high. So when I ask you at the end of your PhD, how was it? You will report, actually, it was a good experience. I'm happy that I did it. If I ask you it in between, in the middle, maybe you will report it's the worst thing, the worst choice that I ever made. So it fluctuates, your well-being, and this is normal, and this is the case for all researchers. If you look at the main concerns of early stage researchers, what we see there is that mental health is among the top concerns. On the left here, you see the 2017 Nature survey, where we see that roughly 28% of respondents, they listed mental health as a top concern. On the right-hand side, the Evans paper, there you also see that graduate students, in fact, they have more than 6 times, or it is more than 6 times as likely to experience depression and anxiety for this group of people compared to the general population. So what comes out of studies is that roughly 40% reports to experience anxiety and depression along the way. When we look at the people that report depression and anxiety, we see that many of them also report to have an unhealthy work-life balance. If we then look at the supervisor relation, then what we see is, and I have to enlarge my screen a little bit here, then we see that those who experience anxiety and depression, they did not have the feeling that their supervisor could provide proper mentorship. They did not have the feeling to have had enough support. They did not have the feeling that the supervisor could actually contribute to their emotional well-being. They did not see their supervisor as a real asset to the career development. And some of them also report that they did not feel valued by their supervisor. I'm not at all saying that the problem is located at the supervisor. It's just to start a reflection on what could we expect from a supervisor. They're also not the Swiss knife that can do anything. Our supervisors are perhaps not our psychological counselor, nor our career guide, just as a start of reflection. When we look at the numbers here, some numbers of Flanders, likewise, 40% reports to be under constant strain, 30% reports to be unhappy and depressed. Some numbers from the Netherlands, same numbers, 47% constant strain, again, around the 30% unhappy and depressed. So the data can be generalized to other countries. And when we look at the biggest concerns, there we again see that early career researchers are concerned about work-life balance and stress that is related to that, and they're concerned about their careers. When we focus a bit deeper on the right side, you see that most young researchers do not feel very satisfied with the career guidance that they receive. They're at the bottom. And at the top, you see that overall, they are very satisfied with the PhD. At the very bottom, I also put a quote. I don't think there's anything darker than doing a PhD. This is an example of how, especially during challenging moments, PhD candidates may feel very lonely. Luckily, this is mostly moment-specific, as I showed you earlier, but it shows the fundamental importance to take care of each other, to check and simply ask how colleagues are doing. And this is where communities of young researchers play an important role. And I'm sure that Eva will come back to that point more in detail. There are, however, a few interesting paradoxes as well. We all know that majority of young researchers will have to pursue their careers outside of what we know as a typical academic setting. 70 to 80% will have to leave, but at the same time, these 70, 80% of them remain completely focused on continuing in an academic career. So they are not preparing themselves for the diverse career paths that wait for them. And also here, this is where communities can help take a crucial role in bridging actually young researchers with the industry and engage them and reflect them proactively about their professional development. A second interesting paradox is that overall high satisfaction in combination with the high rates of anxiety and depression. So we have significant levels of worry and uncertainty, and at the same time, we have an overall high satisfaction. We report to be unhappy, and at the same time, we're very satisfied with the PhD process. And Eva will focus on that also more in detail in her presentation, I assume. Here again, to show you some numbers of this high satisfaction, only 60% reports not to be satisfied. So majority here is very satisfied. Then, what causes these mental health issues? Periods of uncertainty, stagnation, the project that is not proceeding as you want, and especially isolation are typical threats to psychological well-being. And when I mention isolation, you can understand that this topic is relevant, was never as relevant as now in the given context that we live in. So you could identify 6 main problem areas. First of all, oops, sorry, that's not the right direction. A perceived lack of domain-specific knowledge. Perhaps you feel like an imposter. Perhaps you feel that you lack some crucial knowledge or some crucial skills. The message here is, of course, train yourself, get training, identify these needs and find help. There are project-related challenges as well. The project doesn't proceed as you want. Here also the message is train yourself in these project management-related skills. Sometimes there are external or personal challenges. Here the message is accept them and engage in effective coping strategies, find solutions, dare to be open about how you feel, and try to find the help that you need. Be open also to colleagues about how you feel. Supervisory problems. As I mentioned, the supervisor is not the person that can solve everything. What's important here is that anticipate on having a good communication. Do not let things escalate. From the start, try to make very good and clear mutual agreements. Tell your supervisor how you feel and come up with common solutions. If you look at the general work process, here also try to adopt a proactive attitude. Try to constantly reflect on how to improve things and communicate this with your supervisor. And of course, at the end, there's always a resource issue, finding funding, which causes also some stress. So these are the main problem areas that we could identify. Now, how can we tackle them? It is important, first of all, to thoroughly understand the problems and how we can deal with them. So that's why I put the quote of Einstein there. If I had 1 hour to solve a problem, I prefer spending 55 minutes to thinking about what exactly the problem is, and then we move into action. So what does Eurodoc do here, or what can we do, is continue to raise awareness of the prevalence, and more importantly, to also spread the message that it's normal to tell how you feel, to make it discussable, to encourage a wider and systemic data collection, to identify these stressors and risk factors, and to suggest potential strategies and good practices. This is in general, of course. How do we do this? It is a joint action. In order to tackle these mental health issues, we need early stage researchers, institutions, and policymakers to do their part. The central idea is that we achieve this by implementing long-term strategies and good practices. Think about you as young academics. You can identify needs in your community. You can create activities, solutions, and these good practices should then hopefully be translated to actions that are established at the level of the institute and translated to policy making. This is where Eurodoc can also help you. So what is expected? First of all, at the level of yourself, what can you do? Here I listed shortly because I don't want to go in too much detail on Eva's tips and tricks. But here I shortly listed a few actions that can make a big difference. Connecting, taking notice, keep on learning, be active, and give. Without going into detail, I'll shortly scratch the surface. So connecting, the message here is remain connected with friends, family, colleagues. Social relations are critical, and they act as a buffer against mental health problems. This also means that if you notice that colleagues fall into a trap of isolation, reach out to them, help them. Second, remain physically active. It makes you feel good, keeps you healthy, and regular physical activity is linked to lower rates of depression and anxiety. Third, take notice. Be attentive, be curious, notice the things around you. Observe the world around you, the weather, the landscape, the mood of the people around you. It helps you to put that PhD in perspective and appreciate things in what is called life. Fourth, keep on learning, keep on trying new things. It strengthens your self-esteem, it encourages social interaction, and it brings excitement. It can also be used as a very strong positive reward for achieving some small successes in your PhD. And then finally, give to others and make this a mindset. You can give time, knowledge, or other talents you have, but always check how you can help people around you. And be thankful and appreciative of what people sometimes also do for you. Committing these acts of kindness, they have shown to be associated with increased well-being and happiness. So these are small actions, but with a big impact. And I think this is one of the key messages in solving these mental health issues. What can we expect from institutions? But first of all, we can expect them to provide access to specialized services, a counselor, a PhD psychologist. We can expect them to raise awareness on future career perspectives and offer you the career development services that you need. We can expect them to also organize activities related to stress and well-being. And we can expect them to focus on training the supervisors to be better mentors, to better prepare you for these diverse career paths. What can we expect from policy making? There, Eurodoc wants to raise awareness, continue to raise awareness with European stakeholders. There we can push for funding. We need more funding to understand the mental health problem. We can discuss and relate observations to available literature. We can conduct surveys and we can understand the underlying causal factors. How can you now be active at the policy making level? That is, first of all, you could, for instance, join an association like Eurodoc, become active in the working group. And this is where we really discuss the literature, the policies that are available, and the observations that we make at each of the national associations. The second way is to get involved in European projects, just as we do. I list here 3 examples. The first one is the Researcher Mental Health Observatory. The slides will be shared and the links to the projects are in there. This is a project where we bring together experts on mental health with young researchers and institutes to really translate what we know with the observations that we have and to create these policy recommendations. A second action is the Ediverse project. Here we take the path of training. We want to advocate and advance sustainable research careers through training, and here we focus on open science and mental health, for instance. And then a third one is to try to be very innovative. This is a project where we implement artificial intelligence to create a personalized training or a personalized menu of mental health related activities for an individual researcher. So you see that on the one hand, we bring scientists, scientific knowledge together and translate it to policy. On the other hand, we are focused on doctoral training services. And thirdly, we're focused on new innovations. And then final option for you is, of course, also get active at a local level, because this is where you can feel what is needed at your specific context, in your specific context, and where you can experiment. You can yourself create actions, bring people together, and experiment with solutions. So to conclude, it is an opportunity, I think, this whole mental health debate. Never underestimate the power of small actions. And for us, it's an opportunity to create more healthy and empowering research environments. So as a take-home message, my advice to you all is Keep an eye out for your colleagues and friends. Talk with them, talk to them. Set clear expectations with your supervisor. Invest in a very good and open communication. Get your training and think about the diverse career paths that you want to head to, and make also career development plans. Take part in social activities, and in the current reality, this is often online. But don't hesitate and experiment with things. Try to find new solutions and stay in touch with each other. Take part also in peer-to-peer mentoring. Think about what you can do for your peers. And if things are really not going well, don't be ashamed to also be open about it and get counseling. It's also quite important that you use the services that exist. So this was my contribution for now, I think. Questions we'll take afterwards. I was just looking at the 2 questions that we received. Are there resources that help with developing a career development path? Definitely. We'll come back to that at the end, I think. And what is the breakdown generally on time constraints for each year? I'll also come back to that in the Q&A later on. Okay. Then I will now give the floor to Eva, if that's okay for you, Eva.
Let me unmute myself. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Yes, wow. First of all, hello. It's really a great pleasure to be here. Thank you, Marie, for organizing this great webinar. It's a fantastic idea, fantastic initiative, and I think that the timing is really perfect. It's just at the beginning of the year, so we can start the year with a positive vibe. And I also want to thank Matthias for his great presentation. I really love the message there about seeing PhD as an opportunity and as looking for solutions, and it's a way to grow. So I absolutely share this message, and this is also something that I would like to talk with you about. So a word about me. My name is Eva Płóciennicka. I'm a doctor of cognitive psychology and a licensed psychologist. And currently I am working as a PhD mentor with PhD students to help them overcome their mental health challenges and make the best out of their PhD journey. And of course, as I'm saying it, it all sounds very proud and very easy. But before I go to the presentation, I would actually like to share with you my story. And my PhD was not always that easy. And I will never forget that one evening, it was a late evening. I was sitting there after a long day of work and just trying to work still on my PhD. And then my mom called and just asked me, so how are you? How are things going? And I said, well, actually, not that well. I don't really know what I do. I have so much to do. I have so much papers to read, and I'm reading those papers and I don't remember anything. I have data to analyze and I need to learn new software, and I'm really, really struggling with that. So I'm not progressing with that either. And I said, well, and sometimes I even wonder if I'm able to do this PhD because I'm working so much and nothing really goes forward. And then, as you can imagine, a huge silence because it was my big dream to do a PhD. And then my mom says, well, Eva, come on, I don't get it. You have been a psychologist. You have worked in one of the top hospitals, helping people to get back in shape and get back their intellectual skills, to remember better, to organize their life, to be positive, to take challenges. And now, what are you doing? Why don't you be a psychologist for yourself? Well, it's very hard to be a psychologist for yourself, but with what my mom said, that really, really struck me. And that day, I decided that PhD, I will not be a victim of my own PhD. I will take it as an opportunity, and I will take all the challenges that come as opportunities. And from that moment, my PhD really changed. So, of course, the change didn't come overnight, but that night I didn't sleep much. I just started to think of all the skills that I have and all the things that I'm doing well, and also all the things that give me pleasure and what is important for me. And one of those skills, things that I really loved, was talking with people. And as my PhD was pretty experimental, I was actually not getting that. So I started to be more involved in the PhD students associations and talk about mental health. And on one side, that really helped me to myself to be better and to realize that I am not the only one struggling there. It also allowed me to get the support from the peers. So also many things went faster, gave me confidence. And finally, professionally wise, it also brought me to where I am now. So again, the journey was not so straightforward. I did 2 postdocs following my PhD, but then the human side took such a big part that now I made it into my mission to help PhD students to be there for you in order to make the PhD journey better. And I really love it. And this is also the experience of the PhD and of the hard times. So now I will share my screen with you. Let me just, yep, right. Okay. So let me just edit view. Okay, full screen. Is it all right now? Can you see it? Yeah, good.
Yes, Eva.
Yes.
All right, perfect. So that's why also I am here today. And so today I would like to speak with you about, well, how to become a confident, productive, and happy researcher. And you may ask even, is it possible? But I would say yes. And let's see together how. Well, so first of all, in my presentation, I will be talking separately about confidence, productivity, and happiness. And later on, we will address all the questions. Also, in my presentation, I will be sharing it is based in psychology and in cognitive neuroscience. It is also based on my own experience as a PhD student, and also on my experience right now as a PhD mentor. So, and also one other many important thing is that I really tried to make it very practical for you. So to give you some material to think and to grow already after your presentation, and to help you really implement the knowledge that we are sharing today. I also prepared a little bonus for you, which is PhD solution guide. This is a guide, a few questions to make you think about your own challenges and the ways to overcome them, and what are the actions you can take to overcome it. So I think it will be very helpful for you. I really encourage you to take those 15 minutes after the webinar to use the PhD solution guide, and also to use it as a tool for reflection further on whenever you meet any challenges. Right, so every time I'm actually working with academic institutions and I'm invited to organize webinars, we have usually first conversations, and then they tell me, yeah, so maybe you can prepare like something about the biggest PhD challenge. So then this is a pretty difficult question. So what is the biggest PhD challenge? And as we've seen in the Matthias presentation, while there is a lot of data about that, I also work with PhD students. I have been there as well. So I know that there are quite a lot of challenges, and we have a big choice with that. So the ones that come to my mind like the most frequently are uncertainty about future, uncertainty about the value of the PhD, imposter syndrome, challenging communication with your supervisor, perfectionism, failure, and procrastination, right? And I think all those challenges are really real. But I think that what is really underlying those challenges is the lack of confidence. And if you look at it, uncertainty about future, if you believe in your skills, if you know what you want, you should trust in yourself and see the future as positive. The same with the value of the PhD. If you're learning and you are able to acknowledge your skills, you know that you're equipped with them and you will be successful in the future. Communication with the supervisor, that's maybe a bit more challenging, but if you're sure of yourself and of your needs, you're probably also able to communicate it more clearly and to stand for what you need. Perfectionism and fear of failure, where it has been shown that once we're more self-confident, we are faster of taking decisions. So we will be also better in adjusting if the work is good enough or not good enough. Well, procrastination is yet another very important issue, and we usually don't associate it with confidence. However, procrastination is not only about time management, it is also about mental and emotional blocks that we have. And very often they are related with confidence, with us feeling, are we able to do this work or not? So, what can we do in a practical way to boost our confidence? Well, typically in the PhD, there are activities, there are things that we are doing for the first time or things that we are really challenged with. So I invite you first to think, what activity takes away my confidence? The second thing would be to think, what skills do I need to develop in order to boost my confidence? Very important one, what skills do I have already? Because it's also very important to acknowledge that we have already a set of skills. Then the following one is, so what do I need really the help with? And the last one is, who can help me with that? So this is really very problem solution oriented approach. And I would just like to give you an example of one of my clients, Jenny. I'm changing the name right now, but she was a PhD student here at the University of Strasbourg. And she reached out to me pretty much at the last year of her PhD. And her biggest challenge was actually public speaking. And so she knew that she needs to prepare her presentation and defend. And since it was so challenging for her, she really knew that she needs to look for solutions. So she thought of 3 skills that she should develop. One of them was speaking French, because that was not her native language. The second one was just being in front of people, being more explicit, using more gestures. And the third one was, well, maybe working on her confidence, but that was, again, not so straightforward for her. So what she did, she went to French classes. She took extra French classes, but very quickly her French teacher told her, well, actually, you have a little bit of an accent, but that is not a problem. Your French is perfect. It's an academic level French, so nothing to do about that. Then she took some courses of the theater, improvisation theater, and of course that was helping, but she felt that she's still not 100% there. So then she started to think, okay, so maybe there is something within me, and that's how we got to work together. But on the other side, she really knew her topic, and she was very good with the visual presentations. And she also had the full support of her supervisor. So she had a very good assets, very good skills about that. So she could pretty much convey the message visually very well. So that was very important as well, to acknowledge those skills. So then, okay, who can help you with that? Well, that was me. But what is very, very important about that are those three things? Well, the first one is that she was very much solution oriented. And second one, so she really went through all those stages, and she was not afraid to invest time, money, and energy. And she really truly went for it. And she defended her PhD at the beginning of 2020 in not very easy conditions when just COVID started and with a lot of uncertainty. But she really did great. And now she's still working from Strasbourg, but she obtained a postdoctoral position in United States. So it all went very well for her. And even for that position, she needed to do the interview and present her work online. So it all paid off. But now, funny that Matthias also used the same the same researcher, one of the biggest researchers of our time, Albert Einstein, who said, "The exaggerated esteem in which my life work is held makes me very ill at ease. I feel compelled to think of myself as involuntarily swindler. So remember that, involuntarily swindler, one of the greatest scientists of our times, who thinks that actually his success is not fully merited, that it's fake, that it doesn't get the attention it should." I'm sorry, but now something. So, all right. So, right, if we take the example of Einstein, do you think that he really enjoyed his successes? Do you think that he could acknowledge them and be proud of them? Because from what he said, it doesn't seem so. And this is actually the tricky part about confidence, is that the confidence really influences the way we perceive ourselves, we perceive our science, but also the way we work. And I will talk about that a little bit later. So the confidence, it's really such an important factor. However, to be completely honest with you, when people are reaching out to work with me, they rarely reach out to me to talk about confidence or to boost their confidence. Most of the times, PhD students want to work with me because they want to get more productive. And so that shows me two things. Well, first one is that there is such a huge pressure on us with the time, with all the tasks that we have to do. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that for many of you, including me in the past, being productive, working a lot and doing stuff actually, that makes us happy. So I really see this clear interaction between working well and being happy. Oops, I'm so. And so here comes the question, as always. So how to be more productive? And so there are many time management techniques. So one of them is, for example, smart goal settings and goal monitorings, setting priorities. So there is also a set of tools for that. For example, Eisenhower matrix, also productive working habits, for example, Pomodoro working technique or deep work. So there is really a bunch of those time management strategies and goal monitoring strategies. And I invite you to have a look at the PhD Success website for the free resources. Those are also the things that we do in the PhD Success community. So this is our support group. We really use those time management techniques. However, today, I don't want to really go in depth about those time management techniques because there is something much more important than time management in the productivity. For me, as a psychologist, productivity is not only about time management, it is about attention management. So let me just illustrate it through an example of two of my clients. So one of them is Maria. She's a PhD student in Portugal, and she reached out to me to speak about to be more productive, basically. She was procrastinating. She had the impression that she's not going forward with her work. So we started to work, and after a couple sessions, so we meet always on Zoom, online, and we just talk. So, well, I mean, not just talk, but like at the beginning we start the conversation, and I always ask, okay, so how was your week? Tell me. And then it starts, oh, it was such a bad week, Eva. I really didn't work well. Okay, so we go more in depth to that. So then she starts explaining me what she did on Monday and on Tuesday, and it went all fine. And then on Wednesday morning, it was fine as well. But Wednesday afternoon, so Wednesday morning, she had a meeting with her supervisor. And then on the afternoon, she felt tired. She was sitting in front of the computer, but not really working well. She found a mistake, something. And so that's it. Thursday, on the contrary, she woke up early, very early, to make up for Wednesday. So she worked a lot on Thursday. And on Friday, it went fine as well. So what you can see here is that she really focused on this half of the day where she didn't manage to work correctly. Whereas all the other times, all the other days, she was actually working very well. And this is about our focus. This is where our attention go. And I see it really so often that we will focus on this one bad thing, this one thing that doesn't work, the day that we were not in shape to work, instead of acknowledging the entire work that we have done. Another example is Tobias from Germany. And Tobias is also a PhD student. And for him, one of the exercises, so from what I understood when he reached out to me for the first time, it's that actually he feels that he's not working enough. So I said, all right, so it's not about time in the PhD, but let's just let me have just a vague impression of how much you're in reality working. So I asked him to monitor the time he's spending on his PhD. And so then again, we are connecting on Zoom, hello. And I say, okay, so tell me, how was your week? Oh, very bad week. So here we go again. Monday, 11 hours. Tuesday, 10 hours. Wednesday, 10 hours. Thursday, attention here, only 5 hours. And Friday, 9 hours again. And what he says, well, that has been a bad week. I didn't work enough and I didn't finish what I have planned. So you see, Tobias was working more than 40 hours a week. And I believe he accomplished some things. He was working towards his goals, but still he didn't feel satisfied with his work. And this is something really so common. So here is my advice. First and most important one is acknowledge your efforts. Acknowledge the work that you're doing. Really realize it. Second, work smart, not hard. Don't spend endless hours in front of your computer. It doesn't have to be long. It has to be smart. It has to be efficient. Third one, set the boundaries, okay? There is also space for life. PhD is a part of your life, but it should not be all your life. So if you decided that you're taking a weekend off, take this weekend off. It will really, truly help you to work efficiently later on. And the last one, take a rest. That is almost as important as working. And what I'm saying to my clients and also in my community is that taking a rest is also working for your PhD, just in a different way. Because when you're biking or when you're walking or doing something fun, you take a distance from your work, but you can still think of your academic concepts. And then somehow they usually come together. You get new creative ideas. So this is also, it contributes to your work in a way. Right. So all good. Now I explained you all the concepts. So we talked about confidence, about productivity. We'll address happiness later on. But now there is something I will say that you might actually not like. You need to take action to see the results. Okay, so of course I explained those concepts now, but all that have been said here so far, from what I said, from Matthias said, you will not see the results of it just because you understood that it works like that. You really need to progressively but steadily implement all those advices to see the results. And implementing is not always that easy, but it can work. And so that's why I also want to show you one of the biggest principles of human behavior and learning. Okay, so very simple explanation is when you imagine a baby, for example, and the baby starts walking, so learns to walk. And then you have parents that will encourage him, say, yeah, well done, make one more step. Okay, for us grown-ups, it works exactly the same way. So there is an action, there is a behavior, and then we need a reinforcement, so in other words, an encouragement to maintain this behavior. And this is something that will work pretty well for the productivity, for example. So you want to be productive, you decide to change your habits, and so on. And so then there will be factors that can encourage you to keep this behavior. For example, you're working on your article and you send it to your supervisor for a review. And then within a couple minutes, the supervisor responds, okay, well done, I will have a look on it. Okay, so you know that he's also working online, that he received it. And so it will keep you working because he's working and because you got this feedback. Another feedback, so we call feedback or something that can really encourage you to maintain the same behavior, is peers. So this is actually a very important factor, and Matthias also spoke about making connections, making PhD friends, and that has been also one of the things that I set as a main goal for PhD success, is also to have peer-to-peer support, to have community, because that can be actually something that is really ongoing and very, very helpful. So peer support, well, what does it mean? For us, for example, in the online community, that means that we will connect online at a given time and work online. So then you know that there are people on the other side of the screen that are working as well. So you're not alone with your problems. There are others struggling as well. And then we will reconnect and talk about our goals, what we did, and so on. And so that is encouraging. That is also giving you the pace of work. And then feedback from your supervisor, feedback from your peers are, let's say, two external factors. But there is one very important yet factor, is you. Okay, and you also need to self-appreciate yourself. You also need to give yourself rewards for the good work that you're doing. So in case of productivity, for example, that would be taking time off. Well, I worked well, I worked this time of hours. Okay, now I deserve a break. Well, with confidence, it is a little bit less stressful, less straightforward, but still there is this factor of encouragement, of reinforcement, and of getting feedback. So imagine the situation, where, you're, let's say, struggling a little bit with your confidence, and then your supervisor gives you very positive feedback, or he says, I'm proud of you. I see that you're making progress. I see that you're learning. How that would impact you. Feedback from your peers, as much, very important. If your peers, if your colleagues say, wow, well done, oh, you did it, great presentation. Or another option, if they see you as an expert, if they come to you to ask you questions, right, that will also boost your confidence. And once again, you is the most important factor in all that. And again, a self-appreciation. So for example, celebrating your wins. Okay, you publish an article. Well, tell it to the world. Maybe not everyone can understand it, but be proud of it, acknowledge it. It's okay to be proud. It's good to be proud. We don't need to be those humble scientists. Also having this positive self-talk. Wow, I've made it. I'm good. I can do it. This is actually going on in your head, but you have a control over it. And now, I said it all. So what happens with happiness now? Well, with happiness, fortunately, sorry to disappoint you, but it is much more complex with happiness. And so, as much as on the other for productivity and confidence, we can pretty much apply the behavior schema. For happiness, it is much less straightforward. However, it has been shown, research has shown that if you're surrounded by positive people and there is, let's say, this positive vibe in the air, even though you yourself don't feel happy within yourself, the general ambience will also have a positive impact on you. However, happiness is much more complex feeling. It's a feeling. So the way I have presented it here, I see the happiness as a result of being confident and handling all the PhD challenges with confidence, and also of the productivity. So you're confident, you get a positive feedback, you're productive, you're working. Well, there are fair chances that that will make you happy. However, it's a feeling, right? So there is much more about it. It's also where is your emotional state? How are you in life? How are you physically? So all those things may affect happiness. But still, I would like to focus here on getting happier, or what you can do about it. And there are still quite some things that you can do about it. Well, the first one, and I share here once again the opinion of Matthias, is that it is your own responsibility. And please let me repeat it once again. Well-being is your own responsibility. You are the one that knows what you need and when you need it. And I'm very happy to see that there are more and more actions from the institutional sides, and that is really great. But it is your job to strive for your happiness and for your well-being, and to take action towards that. Another very important message here is see challenges as opportunities to learn and to grow. And here I really invite you to think about my story. Okay, not easy story, but yeah, that experience, that bad moment of my PhD really made me grow and brought me where I am right now. Be in a problem-solving mode. Okay, so really identify your challenges, identify what skills you have, what skills you need to learn, who can help you with that, and just do it. And here, I really want to bring once again this example of Jenny, who was really very much in this problem-solving mode. And finally, look for help. If you need help, whether it is technical help, psychological help, just peer support, there are many things out there. PhD Hub, Eurodoc are one of them. There is also We Are There. So PhD Success, please don't hesitate to reach out to me by email, LinkedIn. This is our mission as well. And finally, I would like to finish this presentation with a quote that I like very much, saying, PhD is a journey. Nobody goes through it and remains the same. Use it as a stepping stone to be a better you. So thank you very much for your attention. I think we pass to the questions right now. So I give a stage to Marie, and thanks again for your attention.
Many thanks, Eva and Matthias, for those two very insightful presentations and very practical tips, Eva. So thank you so much for I'm sure, helping many early stage researchers in their journey, in their PhD journey. As you said, we will take now a few questions. There is one hanging for you, Eva. Elizabeth is asking if you have any advice on how to balance work with PhD and how long does it take. She's asking whether it's possible to speed up the PhD process as you presented it.
Okay, that's a complex question. Okay, is it possible to speed up the PhD process? I am not sure it is possible to speed up the process because it is a learning process. So learning takes time and we should accept it. But what you could do is try to work less. I assume you're working a lot, but work more efficiently, okay? Set the boundaries to your work. When you're not productive, where you're sitting in front of your computer and you see that it's going slowly, well, just close it. Just, if possible, of course, just go, take a break, start doing something else. Because this way, first of all, you will work, the times that you will work more efficiently when you're rested and when you're more focused. And the second thing is also that if you work efficiently and you give yourself also this time off, then you will make more time for your life, other activities in your life, okay? And give them importance as well, because often what I see is that it's like PhD is one most important thing, and the entire life, the rest of the life, other spheres of life, they are just on standby, okay? And that's probably why you want to speed up the process. I assume again, don't stop your life. Try to make a mix, and especially set the boundaries to your PhD. And I mean, of course, we can talk about it later, and and see what we can do, like on a more personal level for that.
Perhaps also one other piece of advice, Elizabeth, that is also put a PhD in the right perspective. We are all perfectionists, and sometimes you have an idea of how your PhD should look like for you personally. But a PhD, you can compare it a bit like a driver license. It's just a document at one moment that testifies that, voilà, you delivered a thesis and that it has been accepted and that it allows you to proceed to the next phase. So sometimes you can speed up the process by just accepting at one moment that you fulfill the requirements that are set, that your supervisor says it's good to go, even when you do not have the feeling yet that it's good to go. So this is also one important component about ending the PhD process, I think. Sometimes just accepting that, okay, it's good to go, it's fine enough, it will never be perfect, and it should never be perfect, because you have still the years after to build up further on what you started in your PhD.
Thank you so much for this great answers to the question. I think, yes, it takes time, and we have to see the PhD differently. There is another very relevant question from Alice, who is asking, does life in academia get actually easier after the PhD? And it's very relevant. I'm addressing this question to both Matthias and Eva, who passed their PhD successfully after this long journey. And she's asking, she's saying that she's currently struggling with imposter syndrome and feeling not good enough. So is PhD, post-PhD life easier? Some words of hope.
Who wants to start first? Shall I open the floor, Eva? You just chip in when you want.
Go on, Matthias. I'm curious what you're going to say, actually. We're talking about it.
Well, I'll give you an honest answer. Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
The no, because, well, no, you will fall in a series of short-term contracts, and there's a lot of pressure, notably to find the resources to continue. So the moment you start the postdoc, you need to already think about acquiring or obtaining the next postdoc. So from that perspective, it is stressful, especially if your only goal is to obtain that academic position. Why I say that it could also be easier is that if you combine it with a professional development plan, a personal plan, where you say that during my postdoc years or during my after PhD years, I would like to achieve these and these and these and these goals on the way, midterm goals for yourself. Then you see that every month that passes, you are developing yourself for different career paths. And the postdoc is only one path there. So my recommendation would be use the opportunities that come your path. Do not focus only and solely on the academic track. Make sure that everything you do during the postdocs also fits into your personal development. That way you give yourself the perspective, and that way I think it could also be a period of many opportunities that come your way. And that gives a very positive feeling about it. So it's a mixed situation. It can be stressful at times, so definitely the pressure may be higher, but you can put that into a good direction, which gives you perspectives. This would be my answer to it.
Yeah, well, I completely agree with that. I think for me, it's also the answer is yes and no. Personally, I think I had, well, yes and no again. On one side, when I finished my PhD, I felt that, okay, postdocs are also contracts where you also have a mission to fill within a given time. But let's say the challenge is a little bit less because you can always extend the project, you can discuss with your supervisor, but you are a PhD already. So there is, I would say, from my perspective, from my experience, for me, there was a less time pressure. That is one thing. But on the other side, I still worked a lot. And this is mainly because science is my passion. So something that would be very important is that you start implementing the healthy lifestyle, the boundaries to your PhD, to your work right now at the stage where you are right now, because then the transition will be more smooth. It is not all into PhD and then what? No, it is, let's say, it's an important part, but life doesn't stop there. So I think that setting those boundaries, and I also had to learn to set them myself, it's a very, very important part. And also regarding the imposter syndrome, I think that also something that's actually, and is also something to think about, but having finished my PhD, I really celebrated it. I really acknowledged it. I really have this PhD now after my name. And I have been struggling myself a lot with the imposter syndrome during my PhD, and I worked on it. And having the diploma, having passed through the stage is like a stage. I think that will help you a little bit with your imposter syndrome, but you might also work on it like more deep inside, because when you apply for the postdoc positions, you need to sell yourself. You need to be there to say, well, I am actually the best. I did this and that. So when you're humble and shy about your successes, that might not work. So I really encourage you to work on your imposter syndrome straight away, and also to start setting boundaries to your work now. And I know it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah, many thanks for sharing with us, both of you, your experience during and after PhD. It seems that it's, anyway, we leave this experience differently, and we can manage it differently according to our own experience and background and skills, obviously, and also environment, obviously, because I imagine it's not easy. And I see that in our Q&As, we have also, PhD candidates who have a family to take care of at the same time. So obviously all those factors can affect the way you leave your PhD, and you can manage it and take care of yourself and be efficient in what you're doing, content, and happy with what you produce. So all the tips can be obviously adapted to the situations, but I think Matthias and Eva gave the general tips. Obviously, it's good to get proper help and maybe tailored help if you really already feel depressed, as I can read in the comments. I imagine you can. I encourage you actually to go and talk to people that can support you in a more personalized way. And I know Eva, for instance, is also doing that for many candidates. I know as well that there are different online platforms by which you can get in touch with others. And I would recommend Eurodoc as also a platform to connect with other early stage researchers and feel like you're part of a community, which could really help you go through this experience. I see we have a lot of questions. So what I would like to suggest to Matthias and Eva, because we have to go on with a small other presentation before we finish on time. So I invite Matthias and Eva to check this box and answer the remaining questions in the chat for those that have more particular questions. I think it was a great overview, and now because we've talked about the importance of being all together and being in touch with each other, and I know how difficult it can be actually with the current situation. Most of the doctoral schools are closed, doctoral schools where usually you can also get in touch with your peers, discuss your research, your problems, see your supervisor face to face. All those things are nowadays a bit difficult, obviously, but there are like online platforms, and we've talked about a few of them. And now I would like also to present you very briefly the PhD Hub platform, because even though it's not tailored to get necessarily in touch with your peers, it's also tailored to get in touch with others. So in general, networking and being able to talk about your experience, being able to successfully concretize ideas into projects, I think this can also impact the way you feel about yourself, your self-confidence, and necessarily it can also impact your well-being and your mental health. So I will share a quick presentation now with you, and I think you might find it insightful as to the fact that there is many things you can do on the PhD Hub platform, which is something that will bring you more added value to your PhD. And I would just like to ask my co-presenter if my screen is visible.
Yes, but also we see your chat.
Yeah, okay. I think here it's better.
I can still see the chat in the middle. I don't know if it's only me, but yeah.
All right, that's a bit peculiar. I'll just do that very quickly again.
Oh, okay. I could close it, so it's fine. Try it again.
Yeah. It must have been you then.
Sorry. Yeah, it's perfect now. My apologies.
All right, perfect. So thank you. So so the PhD Hub, first of all, what you have to understand is the PhD Hub is a platform, but it started as a EU-funded project under Erasmus+, and you might all know the Erasmus+ project, which is one of the European Union's flagship events program, for mobility program. And in this project, we gathered both the higher education institutions as well as the industry partners to basically create a big hub for innovation and research. So on the PhD Hub, as I said, this online platform is basically creating links between research and innovation because it matches the research interests of the public and the private sector. And here, when we say private sectors, it could be all non-academic partners. And it's also a meeting point where you can connect with, well, socioeconomic actors, researchers, and early stage researchers. And here it's even more important nowadays to be able to connect, to be able to find the right people for the projects that you want to develop, and to be able to concretize those ideas you have into projects. So if you'd like to tap into industry-driven research, then you should check out the PhD Hub. But what exactly can you do as a PhD on the PhDHub.eu platform? Well, first of all, you can search opportunities. Those are either open positions for PhDs or postdocs published by higher education institutions and their business partners. So industrial PhDs, well, there is always this industrial aspect to it. And there is also cooperation calls where you can check what is there. It's different type of projects where you can apply, obviously, and conduct small projects with industry and academic partners. You can as well expand your network, as I said. So get easily in touch with others, discuss the projects that you have, and be sure to find the right people because you can search by fields of sciences, you can search by many other different criteria, which will allow you to actually find the good offer and the good demand, for instance. So it's important as well to underline that all this PhD Hub platform offers different kind of resources. And for you, what could be relevant are the useful tips that we have, which are tailored for early stage researchers. There is a section in our useful tips about mental health. So I encourage you to check this out. And there is also different links to different external resources there. So for instance, you will find there as well about Eurodoc and about PhD success, because we believe that those are two relevant initiatives and organizations that do a lot to take care of your mental health. And there will be soon to be released the open courses. And this is interesting for you as well as adult learners, because even beyond your PhD or your postdoc, there will be open courses for you to train on transferable skills. And those can be career management, it can be PhD supervision for those that are supervising PhDs, but there are also many, many more other courses that will be offered in the future by a project that works together with PhD Hub. And which can obviously help you also manage a bit more, well, the stressful moments during your PhD, and which you can build, you will anyway gain value in gaining new skills and competences that you can use in different situations throughout your lives. So basically what I wanted to tell you is that, well, it's free for you to create an account on PhDHub.eu and to be able to take advantages of all those resources that we have on the website. So I encourage you to join this research-based community and to obviously connect with each other because this is a very important point of today's session. So you can get in touch as well with me on LinkedIn or via my email address that you see on the screen at the moment. And before we close this meeting, because we have a few minutes left, we have actually 5 more minutes. I would like to ask maybe Matthias and Eva, if you'd like to add anything, if you feel that you would like to add anything to say for those that are hearing us today in the webinar as well on YouTube live, some kind of last minute tips, or maybe sharing one of your experience that could be relevant to them, for those that struggles with their PhDs, for those that have maybe some kind of depression going on. What could be the good thing to do as new resolution, new year, but also not feeling the pressure of having to achieve something that's is not achievable. I think it's also comes from there, the stress that we might feel each year in putting our goals, very too ambitious goals, and sometimes not reaching them and feeling bad about ourselves about this. So if you have any other last comments to share, I invite you to do so.
I think you summarized already a few important concepts, Marie. In a few keywords, perhaps first of all, accepting that at some moments things are not going fine. This is normal, and this is for all of us. Secondly, by accepting this, you also decide to not drag things along. If things are not fine, it's important to take a break, to reflect how you can optimize things. Sometimes it's important to first deal with personal problems and then to continue with a PhD, because you increase your efficiency, you optimize basically the working conditions. And that's fully in line with what Eva said. Try to just work less, but better. And try to reflect what you need yourself in order to achieve this. And that is the third point that you just mentioned, Marie. Goal setting is quite important there. And when you set goals, keep in mind that you have to compare yourself to yourself and your own goals. If it comes to measuring progress in your own project or finding relevance in your own project, it are these goals that will help you and that will guide you on the path. There is no golden standards of amount of hours that one should work. It is difficult to compare different projects with each other because they're just unrelated to each other. So try to find goals that work for yourself. And I think this is one of the most difficult exercises in a PhD, because we're all ambitious, we're all perfectionists, and we all frequently set goals that are actually too big. So try to set goals that you can achieve on a daily basis. And when you achieve a goal on a daily basis, even if it's just a small goal, give yourself a reward. Close your books, close your computer. Say, voila, I achieved what I had to achieve today. This is fine. If you notice that your goal setting could be more ambitious, carefully build it up again, but try to find something that works for you, that is in balance for you with all the other requirements of life. This would be my general advice.
Right. And so for me, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. So for me, I was just in the chat now, and I see that there are so many, such a great and such a valuable questions, and it's almost like a little bit frustrating not to be able to address them all. But those are the questions that are there. They are really super valuable, and yeah, I see that what you feel is you're not the only one feeling that. Okay, so many other PhD students are in this situation, and I just wish I could keep answering all those questions. But my message would be, well, first of all, thank you for your attention and for those great questions. And I think that talking about it, thinking about it, asking those questions, it already makes one step forward. My second important message would be to see your PhD as a challenge, but as a challenge that is also an opportunity in itself. It is a way for your personal growth. And then, of course, if you're struggling with balance, if you're struggling with depression, if you feel that you're really stuck, look for help, because there is help, and I'm also there, happy to help. Sometimes those are little things. Sometimes things are solved within a couple sessions. Okay, so don't make the mountains ahead of you, just go for it. Another thing also about making those mountains is that, yeah, I don't really believe in the New Year's resolutions because they never work for me. I think it's more about changing your habits. And this is why I have been speaking about this schema of behavior. So try to think about your goals, try to think about how you would like your life to look like. And then try to identify what are the things that you need, what are the people that you need, what sort of feedback, reinforcement you need to help you maintain this good behaviors and this good feeling about yourself. And yes, and once again, don't hesitate really to look for help. I think we are all there and happy to help.
But yeah, on that note, you also find our email addresses in the slides, so don't hesitate to reach out. As we could not answer all questions today, you're more than welcome to reach out and contact me, and I think I can speak for us personally, of course.
Thank you, Matthias. And this is also my cue to tell you that, well, thanks to both my presenter today, Matthias and Eva. You can find more information about PhD success on phdsuccess.eu. For Eurodoc, go to eurodoc.net. And for the PhD Hub, phdhub.eu.